All right, thanks for staying with us. The 30th African Union Summit kicked off in Addis Ababa with a focus on reforming the organization and calls for a continental free trade.
Yeah, leaders also signaled the urgency to combat militant attacks that have become a major threat to peace, security and development. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres praised G5 Sahel joint force for tackling militancy in the region. New AU President Paul Kagame of Rwanda talked about the single African air transport market.
And AU Chairman Musa Faki said member states will work in solidarity.
La banalisation de la xénophobie.
The rise of national egoism, the triggering of xenophobia, and the rejection of the other are all significant symptoms and signals as if the values of solidarity, equality and justice are receding. We are of course pressing our concern in the face of this development to restate our commitment to the values of solidarity, tolerance and mutual respect. Humanity is at stake.
Today, we will launch the single African air transport market. This is a major step forward for transportation. We are nearly ready to adopt the Continental Free Trade Area. It really needs to be done this year.
The G5 Sahel joint force will tackle terrorism, instability, human trafficking and drug smuggling in its troubled region. And the multinational joint task force against Boko Haram is also tackling terrorism in the Lake Chad Basin. But these operations need the support of the entire international community.
The Secretary General of UN there, Antonio Guterres,
yes,
addressing the heads of state and government of the African Union Summit in Addis Ababa.
Okay, we're joined now by lawyer Liberoso Shoma to look at all of the events that played out, the high points of the 30th AU Summit. Good morning. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
It would be appropriate to say Happy New Year. We're seeing you for the first time on the show.
No, you are seeing me
for
I
am.
the first
Oh, okay. All right. My bad.
It's more than a month into the year now.
It's an old year now. All right, so let's get into it. I mean, so many issues came up at this 30th AU Summit. The issue of single African air transport market and, of course, single trade. And more importantly, the push against corruption.
Yes, and combating terrorism.
And combating terrorism and all of that. But let's break it down one by one. What benefit really would it be to Africa if we had the single African air transport market they're talking about?
The world is, as we all know, is becoming a global village, and Africa cannot lag behind in the gains and benefits of creating a hub or a global market for neighboring countries, and so there are immense benefit. The attitude of having Western operators come to feast on the African market, and while cut away the benefits, can no longer, be pushed aside by African. And then, so the solution to the problem of Africa lies in Africa.
Absolutely.
And so the earlier African begins to look inward, to tap into the economic benefits, amongst member nations, the better for it. And so, to that extent, you would say that not just air transport. There was a time also, sometimes in 2003 or so, that the idea of a common currency for African continent was also so mooted, but which fell flat because of interest, even amongst the sub-regions, to even arrive at a common currency had been a big problem.
And the issue of Anglophone
and
Francophones
and the rest. So you see the EU also that had started long before now. It's even a big problem for them to agree on most of these issues. So it's the benefits are enormous, really, but also there will be need to protect the smaller nations in Africa, so that while trying to break the monopoly of Western countries, you won't now empower, you know, the bigger countries in Africa to the detriment of the smaller ones. You know, so
or even conversely, bigger countries like Africa, Nigeria may just, you know, be at the receiving end. Especially look at ECOWAS, for example, where you have the ECOWAS Treaty on free movement of goods